In a market with a plethora of options, we're constantly focusing on vehicles that will change the game or to some degree push the envelope in regards to performance, interior technology, and also now in 2024, hybrid and plug-in hybrid powertrains, which Toyota has you covered. But in this market, more specifically at around $35,000 for a compact crossover, buyers want the intangibles. They want the interior space, they want the practicality, they want the fuel efficiency, affordability, and most importantly, the reliability. Some manufacturers today are focusing on things that aren't the fundamentals or the intangibles, such as a full digital gauge cluster or an immersive infotainment system. And a lot of buyers right now are beginning to push back on that. They want a nice balance of technology and an analog interior. And with the Toyota RAV4, you have a vehicle that gives you that balance, but also a vehicle that has embraced tradition, that has embraced the fundamentals. And that's why I am here. I want to take a deep dive into the 2024 Toyota RAV4, take a look at the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a vehicle at around $35,000, then maybe taking a look at the Toyota RAV4 might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I'd like to thank AutoFair Toyota in Tewksbury, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Toyota inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. With buyers having a long list of compact crossovers to choose from, ranging from the rugged to the sporty to even the technologically advanced, Americans have demonstrated time and time again that the benchmark in this segment for overall value is the Toyota RAV4. Outselling its competitors by a country mile in 2023, the RAV4 has become the gold standard, but also the blueprint to having success in what now is an oversaturated market. While economical and practical aren't the sexiest terms out there to describe a vehicle, with technology driving the automotive industry in the 2020s, the intangibles and the basics is what has driven Toyota to the top, with no signs of that changing anytime soon. Starting off with pricing, the RAV4 we have today is the XLE Premium, coming in at just over $33,000, but can easily reach $40,000 when you include all-wheel drive and optional equipment. Potentially being the pick among the wide selection of trims for 2024, the Premium is the nice middle ground that introduces buyers to a very entry-level luxury-like experience in regards to features. Maybe not as noteworthy in the grand scheme of things, what sets the RAV4 apart in this market is its close resemblance to the Highlander, and with that comes a persona where it doesn't look or feel like an average compact SUV. This generation has embraced a rugged design, and rather than just being a grocery getter and family hauler, you truly have a crossover that's versatile, starting with the 8 inches of ground clearance, which should be more than enough to tackle winter road conditions. While traditionally the RAV4 has been an unassuming daily driver that gets thrown into the mix with the Honda CR-V, Nissan Rogue, and Subaru Forester, the 5th generation brought a new attitude that was enhanced in recent years thanks to a cosmetic facelift. Up front, the XLE Premium comes standard with full LED headlights and LED fog lights, offering an adequate amount of lighting during adverse weather or on dimly lit streets. As much as this modernizes the front fascia, it's the aggressive body lines that's now found throughout the crossover and SUV lineup for Toyota that has completely shifted this vehicle's identity towards being fun and cool compared to its predecessor. Maybe not as obvious for the road-going XLE, this rugged design helped open the door for the adventure and TRD off-road trims, as Toyota continues to appeal to new shoppers demanding performance and capability. Moving over to the side profile, by opting for the XLE Premium, the RAV4 will be sitting on 19-inch alloy wheels, which for a mid-tier trim in the lineup is quite the leap from the 17s found on the XLE. Aesthetically, this crossover is more eye-catching with this larger set of wheels, but surprisingly, ride quality doesn't suffer, and it's always been a concern for some shoppers. Whether on the highway or in poorly treated side streets, the RAV4 can handle the imperfections as well as you'd expect for an SUV in this segment. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with integrated turn signal indicators, to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then as we make our way around to the back, the RAV4 has been wearing this rear fascia for a while now, as this generation has been in production since 2018. While there was a mid-cycle refresh for the 2021 model year, the final third retained the same look, with dual exhaust outlets and plastic molding for the rear bumper. For the mainstream trims, Toyota typically sticks to an unassuming but handsome appearance, and that's exactly what we have here for 2024. And something we'll be discussing when we check out the interior space, the RAV4 has a higher and squared roofline to maximize the practicality available for a crossover of this size. Under the hood, the RAV4 we have today is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, producing 203 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Similar to a majority of crossovers within this price range and segment, where the RAV4 demonstrates its strengths from an on-road perspective is through its ability to provide a comfortable experience for occupants inside, as Toyota's bestseller isn't a sporty or dynamic SUV by any means, but it does excel in regards to refinement, and some of that can be attributed to the traditional automatic transmission compared to the CVTs we see from rivals. Most importantly, shoppers have more than enough power on demand, as its 8-second 0 to 60 time is better than the fully gas-powered CR-V. For the XLE Premium, you'll have the choice between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, which we'd recommend going with the latter if you encounter winter road conditions. And when it pertains to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 28 miles per gallon in the city and 34 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, where the XLE Premium differentiates itself from the XLE is with the power adjustable seats with Toyota Softex upholstery, bringing a slightly more upscale experience to the cabin. Since we have the XLE Premium grade weather package equipped on this model, heated front seats and a heated steering wheel are a welcomed addition, especially on a cold winter day. The driver's side does have memory seat functionality as well for another level of convenience. While bolstering isn't too aggressive, you'll most certainly find comfort up front with a leatherette seating material. In front of you, between the analog gauges, there will be a digital display where you can access a variety of information, including activating or deactivating safety systems such as your blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. Then taking a glance over to the head unit, you'll have a 10.5-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with the 11-speaker JBL Premium audio system. And as we've experienced with most new Toyota and Lexus products, you can subscribe for onboard navigation. If this screen looks familiar, it's because it's the same software that can be found in the Lexus NX. However, the RAV4 has a more analog layout with the physical buttons and dials for the dual-zone climate control, 2-level heated seats, AC, and front and rear defrosters found beneath the user interface. Much like with the gauge cluster, this infotainment system isn't too in-depth, as there'll be icons mounted on the left to quickly get you to the desired menus. For those hopping in from an older RAV4, this screen is a huge improvement in regards to resolution and responsiveness, and there likely won't be a learning curve associated with this head unit. As always, you'll have a rear backup camera with trajectory, with a 180-degree view providing better visibility when backing out of spots. Making our way towards the center console, you'll find a USB input and a cubby for a smartphone. And next to the gear shifter will be the drive mode selector, electric parking brake, and auto vehicle hold. As we discussed earlier, while it's not likely you'll be taking the RAV4 off-road, having a dedicated mode for different terrain and road conditions may provide the confidence to seek the paths less traveled. For the center storage compartment, there'll be plenty of room for smaller items. And to round out the front seating area, we do have a power moonroof, which will let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to sit off on the passenger side. And this has been adjusted a little further back. It's also somewhat on a recline. and I have plenty of legroom here. When you take a look at dimensions for the second row, passengers will have right around 38 inches of legroom, which would be on par with other crossovers in this market, especially at the higher end in regards to interior space. But better yet, because the RAV4 has a higher roofline and a traditional SUV roofline, taller passengers won't be hitting their head on the headliner. A lot of vehicles now have these lower rooflines, these sportback rooflines, and that isn't necessarily practical or dailyable if you do have taller passengers with you at all times throughout the week. One thing I do want to take note of, and I talked about this before with Toyotas in the past, is that these seats do sit a bit lower to the ground to maximize that headroom. So I think if you have people on the height of 6 feet tall, they won't be feeling claustrophobic or cramped in this vehicle. But also more importantly, when it comes to that legroom and shoulder room, there's a lot of it. And I have this feeling that you can squeeze in a third person in the center, but let's find out. Now, as we take a look at the center seat, you are going to have some great placements for your feet. The center hump isn't necessarily aggressive in terms of height, but the width does take away from the legroom a bit and possibly shoulder room. However, when you take a look at the amount of space you have here, you might be able to squeeze in a smaller child. So this vehicle might actually be a true 5-passenger vehicle overall. And some compact crossovers are just that. They are compact, where it's just not going to have the shoulder room where you could accommodate that third person. So this is really great to see. But more importantly, it comes back to that headroom where even sitting in the center, I don't feel like I'm getting close to the ceiling here. Then on the driver's side, the seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom here where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. Also, of course, I really like the upholstery that comes with the XLE Premium. This is one of the reasons why I would go with this trim. It's a nice middle ground in the RAV4 lineup, and it just gives you some of those creature comforts that you're not going to find in the LE or XLE. Also back here, you are going to have 2 rear air vents mounted on the center console, 2 USB-C inputs, and rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. As you make your way around to the back for the XLE Premium, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 37.6 cubic feet of room, making the RAV4 one of the more practical options in this market. This would outclass the Subaru Forester, Subaru Outback, Mitsubishi Outlander, Ford Escape, and Mazda CX-5. This right here is where the RAV4 provides a lot of value outside the fact that it is reliable and has a lot of interior space, as we just talked about for the second row. If you're somebody who does have a family, you go on road trips frequently, or you're constantly on the go, that's where the RAV4 is going to make a lot of sense. I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problems. That's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And I still have an abundance amount of room to store more items or go grocery shopping afterwards. So if you are going on that road trip, maybe that skiing trip during the winter, you'll be able to fit probably 10, 11, 12 bags of luggage back here with no issues. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 70 cubic feet, once again being on the higher end in this market when it comes to overall practicality. The best thing about the RAV4 is that it's versatile in a sense. Even though this particular trim isn't off-road worthy, it is a vehicle that has the ground clearance where you could go off-road, go camping, and with that interior space, you can bring everyone along with you and their luggage. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why a lot of people do choose the RAV4 at the end of the day. Then on the right side of the rear cargo area, you will have a cubby for some smaller items such as a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Also beneath the floor mat, you are going to have a spare tire, so if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And then finally, you will have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then finally, once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So we're now behind the wheel of the 2024 Toyota RAV4. Let's take this vehicle out for a quick test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it compares to other crossovers in this market, such as the Honda CR-V, Volkswagen Tiguan, maybe even the Subaru Forester and Outback, among a list of other vehicles in this segment. But for a vehicle like the Toyota RAV4, it makes my job very easy to review these vehicles because With the Toyota RAV4, it has a lot going for it outside of the performance, where it has the interior space, the practicality, the refinement, but also that reliability. And that alone is why a lot of buyers have chosen the RAV4 throughout the years and decades, because that's what buyers at around $35,000 are looking for most often. And even though the RAV4 for this particular model has only experienced a mid-cycle refresh, it's been on the same generation for quite some time, this vehicle still feels modernized, and a lot of that is because with the gas-powered model, you have an 8-speed automatic transmission, which for a Japanese manufacturer is almost unheard of, because Subaru, Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi all use CVTs in this segment. Now Toyota does use a CVT with the hybrid powertrain, and with the hybrid powertrain, it's a quicker experience. You have a 0 to 60 time of around 7.3 seconds, whereas the gas-powered models are around 8 seconds, which that's really nothing to be complaining about at all, especially for a lot of buyers who are purchasing a RAV4. You're not really looking to speed, you're not looking to tear up some back roads on a nice spirited drive. But what you are looking for is a vehicle that is family friendly, that is comfortable, that is daily drivable and suitable for you. And what really has stood out to me so far on this test drive is the fact that when it comes to the on-road comfort, you don't really feel a lot of the bumps and imperfections in the road, which has really impressed me so far. Because a lot of crossovers, more specifically at this price point and for a mid-tier trim, aren't going to feel all that refined. Now, of course, you're not going to have the most soft touch materials on the dashboard or armrest, but what you are going to have, though, is a driving environment that is suitable for the driver, where the infotainment system is well within arm's reach. Also, you don't have the full digital gauge cluster with the RAV4, which isn't too much of an issue at all. I think buyers who are looking for an analog experience are going to love their time behind the wheel of this crossover, but also you have physical buttons and dials. This is just a pleasant vehicle that perennially just makes sense for a lot of consumers. And while the CR-V does retain some of those qualities still with their new generation, I think buyers are going to prefer the RAV4 when it comes to what you're getting here in the performance department. The fact that you don't get that CVT, you don't get that rubber band effect, but also you have a vehicle that does feel compliant but also competent. And a lot of crossovers from Japan don't give you that. They are going to be lethargic in a straight line. They're not going to be fun to drive. They're not going to be sporty. And that's not what the RAV4 is, although with this generation, you do have some off-road trims to work with. And that really translates to how this vehicle performs on the roadways, because with the seating position, you do have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways, and that transitions to the overall visibility. We have a nice panoramic view. The A-pillars are super thin, very aggressive side mirrors where you can see the vehicle in the lane next to you, and then also you have plenty of vision looking out back, even with the headrest in the way. But let's get on the highway here. Let's see what the RAV4 is made of. I am going to put it in sport mode. Nice peppy powertrain. I can easily get on the highway, no issues. Also, I was able to merge safely, which is exactly what you want to see. Whereas with the CR-V, it will take about 2 business days to get to 60 miles per hour with the gas-powered model. And you're going to be forced to go in the hybrid direction if you're going to choose a Honda. Whereas with the RAV4, you can go with the full gas-powered model or the hybrid and have that performance that you're looking for. Now, also when it comes to the interior insulation, I am impressed here, because even with the larger tire size, the road noise doesn't really translate to the interior necessarily. Now, this isn't a luxury vehicle by any means, but for a lot of mid-tier trims, you're not going to have that insulation. You're not going to feel as though you're isolated from the outside world. Whereas with the RAV4, you have that interior insulation, and really it gives you that pleasant driving experience. Also, of course, it helps out with the fact that we do have Michelin's on the RAV4, and I'm not sponsored by Michelin, but I really love what Michelin does with their tires. It really helps out with the road noise for sure. But at highway speeds at around 65-70 miles an hour, it feels very composed in its lane. And also, it does have a decent lower center of gravity. There's no swaying here. And again, that is something that a lot of buyers are going to be looking for, because it's all about the safety and the quality with this vehicle. And that's really what the RAV4 is providing. Now, since we are at a red light, might as well go over the interior layout once again, being behind the wheel of the RAV4. I gotta be honest, I love this infotainment system. Now, it's not the most in-depth, but it's the exact user interface that we see in Lexus products, which does go a long way. If you're somebody who is a bit disappointed that they can't buy a Lexus NX, but you like the infotainment system that it offers, you have that with the RAV4. Also, you have physical buttons and dials for the dual zone climate control, and it really gives you that nice balance of technology and also that analog feel, as I talked about earlier on in this video. That, to me, I think goes a long way, especially for buyers in this particular market. They're very picky in regards to how much technology they actually want at their disposal and their fingertips. Whereas with the RAV4, they've really designed this vehicle in a way where it doesn't feel old school or outdated, but at the same time, it gives buyers a nice blend and mix. And I think that's why, even today in 2024, the RAV4 is one of the best-selling models. Another aspect with the RAV4 is that when it comes to the handling and steering, there is a nice, decent weight to it, but it's also fluid as well. Not typically seen from a Japanese manufacturer. Most Japanese brands have lighter steering that is a bit more vague, whereas the RAV4, especially in sport mode, there is some weight. It does give you some feedback, which I'm a bit surprised to see and experience. Then in regards to the suspension, it is tuned primarily for comfort and leisure, so you're not going to have the sports tuned suspension. You won't be feeling the jolts or the bumps when you go over the imperfections, but also you will be feeling some of that body roll, which again, at this price point, every vehicle is going to exhibit. More importantly for the RAV4 is that when you are going on those longer road trips, when you are commuting to work, is it going to give you the plush and upscale experience when you are driving? And it is. I'm thoroughly impressed with this suspension because I was not expecting this, quite frankly, for a model and a generation that is getting up there in age, because as you've already seen, a lot of manufacturers are swapping over to a new generation, and with that you are going to get some refinement. But with this RAV4, it does have the quality that you're looking for at around $30,000 to $35,000. The fact that I don't feel like I'm getting thrown around, the fact that the interior is very quiet when you are on the back roads, there's just a lot to work with here that some rivals, even today in 2024, are just not going to give you. But also, when you are comparing it to a Subaru Forester or Outback, the Honda CR-V, and also the Mitsubishi Outlander, I think the RAV4 as a full gas-powered model is a bit more enjoyable. It isn't lethargic, it isn't necessarily dumbed down or sedated. Because you do have the 8-speed automatic, you do have that interaction with the transmission to a certain degree, but you also have a vehicle that does feel rather peppy for its segment. 203 horsepower isn't really something to write home about in 2024, but because you have a lot of crossovers in this segment that are underpowered and have less than 200 horsepower, this feels like a very quick and spry crossover. So to quickly wrap up my time with the 2024 Toyota RAV4, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this compact crossover? This vehicle doesn't throw any curveballs. It's the same crossover fundamentally that you have owned and loved for the past 15, 20, 25 years. Sure, you do have a larger infotainment system that we see in Lexus products, but you still have the physical buttons and dials for the dual zone climate control, and you have a small digital display in between your analog gauges. There's really not much more you could ask for with this model, outside of maybe more technology if you are a tech geek. But what you have here in regards to the practicality, the interior space, heck, even the interior quality and comfort, you have a vehicle that is very compelling even in 2024 with all the competitors that we now see. But also another thing too is that when it comes to the performance side of things, the fact that you can go with a gas-powered model, a hybrid or plug-in hybrid, not a lot of rivals have both a hybrid and plug-in hybrid. So if you are somebody that wants to prioritize fuel efficiency and you want a vehicle that you're not going to be going to the pump 2 or 3 times a week, that's where going with the hybrid and plug-in hybrid makes sense. But for the gas-powered model, you also have a vehicle that doesn't have a CVT. So it's going to compare very well with the Ford Escape, the Chevrolet Equinox, the Volkswagen Tiguan, and I think when it comes to the performance, especially for the gas-powered model, this is better than what we see from the Honda CR-V, the Subaru Forester, and Outback with the 2.5, and also, of course, the Mitsubishi Outlander and Nissan Rogue. If you are somebody that wants a vehicle that's very well-rounded, a vehicle that is not going to be much of a learning curve in regards to the technology when you are hopping in for the first time, that's where I would say definitely take a look at the Toyota RAV4. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.